Well, welcome back to another coffee and a chat. I just had to run my grandson up to work, and so when I got home, I thought before I go in, I want to take a minute and just make a really quick video for you guys and share something with you that I was reminded of the other day. So so I woke up the other morning and I was thinking about this ring from when I was a kid and this situation that happened with this ring. And I don't know why I was thinking about that. I have not thought about this in years. But when I was a kid, my mom had 2 jewelry boxes. Now I have her 2 jewelry boxes. The blue one is the one that she kept all her real things in. That's where her string of pearls were. She had some amber beads that her aunt had given to her. And those were in there. She kept her wedding rings in there. All the real stuff. She had a pearl ring. I can't remember all this stuff, but her real jewelry that was real gold and real diamonds and real pearls and, the real stuff. Then she had this other jewelry box, which is actually about twice as big as the blue one. That's kind of a tan colored. And that's where she kept all her costume jewelry, plus all our baby teeth when they fell out. She had a lock of my hair from when it fell out when I was 4. Things that we had swallowed and it showed up in the diaper later. She had interesting things, but she had costume jewelry in there. And so from the time I was a little kid, I loved when she would let me play in her jewelry box and, put on her jewelry and all. And it also reminded me because I came across one of her necklaces and clip-on earrings that she used to wear a lot. They're like kind of a pink and clear crystals, little kind of a choker necklace and some little clip-on earrings with the beads on them. And that, I always loved it. I bought it for her for probably Mother's Day. It might have been her birthday. But I bought it for her from the 88-cent store, or not the 88-cent store, the dime store. The dime store, where the 88-cent store came along much later. But when I was a little kid, we used to have dime stores where everything in the store was a dime. Oh man, it was great. My mom could buy a dish for a dime, and so or a glass or whatever, and so she would kind of build up little dish sets sometimes, and you could get wooden spoons and things for cooking and just all kinds of things, but they also had costume jewelry. And that used to be I loved doing that. And anyway, I found this necklace and the earrings at the dime store one year, and I just, was so excited and bought it for my mom. And so I found that in some of her other stuff the other day, and I'm like, oh, I've got to put this in the tan jewelry box because, that's where the costume jewelry goes. And so I was like, oh, I've got to put these 2 things together. And maybe that's what started this thought, but I woke up thinking about this ring that I found in her costume jewelry box. And I was probably 15. I was almost old enough to drive, but not quite. I think I probably had my learner's permit, but I didn't have my license yet. So I'm pretty sure I must have been like 15. And, and there would be times that I'd ask her, she had this little cameo pin that I used to love to wear. And I'd ask her from time to time, can I, go look through the jewelry box and, find something to wear with my outfit or whatever. And she was always like, sure, just make sure it's the tan box, not the blue. Okay. So I had asked her if I could look through the jewelry box and find some stuff. Now, she had some rings that, that we kids had given her or other people had given her. And she wasn't a real big ring wearer. But anyway, she had some costume jewelry rings in there, and I was looking through those, and there was this one, and and it had to be cut glass because it was in the costume jewelry box, and but it looked really sparkly like a diamond. It was really pretty, and I thought, oh, that's like someday, some wonderful boy's gonna love me, and he's gonna ask me to marry him, and he's gonna put a diamond ring on my finger, and and I started dreaming along that. And so I thought, I put the ring on, and I was, trying to imagine and pretend, and and all that. And so I had asked my mom. She was busy doing something, but I had asked her. I said, I found a ring in the in the tan jewelry box that I would like to wear. Is that okay? And she goes, yeah, sure, if it's in that box. She goes, I never wear those rings anyway, so yeah, go ahead, you can wear it. Well, I was going that weekend to stay with a friend of mine. Now, she lived about an hour away, and this time I remember I didn't have my license yet, but I did have my permit because I was all excited, like, next year I can drive, if we do this. But her older sister brought her to come pick me up. And so they came on Friday and, to get me. And so my friend Joyce, she went, with me to my room to get my suitcase and stuff. And I showed her this ring, and she's like, oh, that's so pretty. That looks like a real diamond. I go, yeah, but it's not. It's just cut glass, and I go, it's in my mom's costume jewelry. And she said I could wear it for a while. And she goes, wow, that really looks like a diamond. She said, you know what? Let's play a joke on my sister. Let's tell her that some boy asked you to marry him and you said yes, and he gave you a diamond ring. She will flip out because no 15-year-old should be getting engaged. So I thought, okay, her sister was hilarious. And so I'm like going, yeah, let's do that. So I'm in agreement with it. And so we go to get in the car, and we started driving home or to their house. And Joyce said, hey, to her sister, she said, hey, Angie has a boy that really likes her. And she goes, oh, does she now? And she goes, yeah. And he likes her so much, he asked her to marry him. And she's like, what? And she goes, yeah. And he gave her a diamond ring. And she goes, no way. She goes, what's the boy's name? So I'm like, really quick, I just think of one of the guys that I knew from church, so I just say this boy's name. And she goes, well, what does he look like? And so I describe him to her. And she goes, well, where's the ring? And I go, well, I have it on. And she goes, let me see it. And so I took the ring off and I handed it up to her, and she looked at it and she goes, this looks like a real diamond ring. And I go, yeah, it's my engagement ring. And so she's like, well, this can't be real. And, and I'm like, oh, sure it is. It's my engagement ring. And she goes, it can't be real. And so she goes, well, there's one way to know, because she goes, glass won't cut glass. You have to have a diamond to cut glass. So if this is glass, it won't scratch my window. But if it's a diamond, it will. And so she reached over, just like I'm sitting here, and she reached over. Where's my hand? I can't. Okay, wherever. So she reached over and she scratched the window, and it left a mark. It actually scratched into the glass. And she goes, oh, my word, it is a real diamond. And I'm like thinking, well, that's weird, because I know it's not a real diamond, so glass evidently does cut glass. And so, she just has that wrong. And so she's like, oh, my word, you shouldn't be having a diamond ring. Do your mom and dad know? And, she was just lecturing us and lecturing, Joyce and I both about this, that we're just too young and we don't need to be that serious about any boys, and, and we don't need to be thinking about marriage yet, and just on and on and on. And till we were busting up laughing, and then we told her, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. And she goes, well, where'd you get a diamond ring? I go, it's not a diamond ring. I go, it's in my mom's costume jewelry. It's just cut glass. She goes, it can't be. She goes, I'm telling you, that's a real diamond. I'm like, it's not. So we went on to their house and we did a bunch of stuff. Now, one thing I remembered that we did do is we went swimming on Saturday. And I had that ring on, and the ring slid off my finger while I was swimming. And, and I, when I came out of the water, I'm like, oh, the ring's gone, and so Joyce is like, well, we got to find it. And I'm like, well, it is just, we probably can't find it. And it's just cut glass anyway. And she's like, no, we got to find it. We got to find it. I'm like, it is my mom's ring, not my ring. Yeah, we better find it. And so we're diving around in there. We found the ring. And so, I put it back on and we went and we did whatever we did. And we were walking around town and doing stuff. And so on Sunday was the day they were going to bring me back home. And I had taken the ring off and laid it down on the nightstand next to Joyce's bed where we had been staying. And so I got my suitcase and stuff and was ready to go. And Joyce goes, hey, here's that ring. Don't forget the ring. I'm like, oh, almost forgot it. Yeah, right. And so I'm just going to throw it in the suitcase. So I just threw it in my suitcase and, went out and got in the car and we went home, and I was pretty tired and everything. So when we got home, my mom was waiting for me and she's like, Angie, do you have that ring that you said that, you wanted to wear? And I go, yeah, I put it in my suitcase. I had taken it with me. She goes, does it by any chance look like a diamond ring? And I'm like, yeah, it does. And she goes, and it was in the brown or the tan jewelry box? And I go, yeah. And I don't remember ever seeing it in there before. It sure is pretty. And she I didn't know you had, that. But I go, man, whoever cut that glass cut it really good. It looks like a real diamond. She goes, because it is a real diamond. And I'm like, what? And she goes, I don't know how. She goes, the other day I was doing some stuff with my jewelry. She goes, I must have just not even been thinking straight and put it in the wrong jewelry box. But I noticed today, because my mom was allergic to gold. And so she did not wear her wedding rings very often. And if she did, it wasn't for very long. So like Sunday mornings, she'd put them on to go to church. And then when we got home, she'd take them off right away because otherwise her hand would start breaking out and swell up. And it was pretty bad reaction. And so she said, when I was putting my wedding rings in the box, when I got home from church into the jewelry box, I realized that ring was missing. And then I started thinking, because I'd been in there, could I have put it in the wrong box? Could that be the ring Angie has? So I looked in the other box. It wasn't there. I looked in your room. I couldn't see it, and so she goes, I need to get that ring back. She goes, that was a gift to me from a very special friend. And, I don't want to lose it. And so, I'm like, yeah. It's in my luggage. So of course now I'm terrified. And as I'm opening my luggage, I can't find that ring for anything. And my mom's kind of in a panic too. And so then she goes, it's okay. Let's just calm down. And so she started kind of shaking out my clothes. And pretty soon here comes that ring comes popping out. And so she gets it and it goes back to the blue jewelry box where it belonged. And, and she was like, oh my word, when I told her, about the swimming pool and almost leaving it on Joyce's nightstand and all the different things, she's just like, oh, but it's back here, and it just really threw her. Well, it threw me too. And so I woke up the other morning remembering this and thinking about that ring. And then I got to thinking about something else. And this might be why that came to my mind, because I know that God is always talking to us, but we're not always listening. And I find that a lot of times that he will remind me of something because there's a message in it. And as I began to think about that ring the other day, I started thinking about, okay, so as a follower of Jesus Christ, that means I've given my life to him, okay? And I have committed myself to Jesus Christ. I don't do everything right all the time. I still mess up at times, but I don't want to, and that's not my desire. And I want to please the Lord. I really do. And he is my greatest love. Marvin's second, and Marvin's good with that. But Jesus is number one. So the Bible tells us that when we give our life to Christ, that he puts his Spirit, his Holy Spirit in us. And I've talked about this before, that it is the proof of our salvation. He is the promise of his return and the pledge that God leads with us. And there's, a lot to that. But I started thinking about how the Holy Spirit lives in me because I am a follower of Jesus. And I started thinking about, there's only one God. I mean, a lot of people believe in a lot of different gods, but there's only one true God that's real. And that is Jesus, and that, or Jehovah, because Jesus is God and God is Jesus. And, and that's a whole nother thing that we could get into a thing about, but we're not going to today. But there's only one true God, and the Spirit of the one true living God lives in me. All his power, all his strength, all his wisdom and knowledge and might, everything, the fullness of who he is inside of me. That's why we're told in the Bible that our bodies are the temple of God, because he literally indwells us. Now, I'm not God. It doesn't mean I became God or anything like that, but God lives in me. And you guys, as I began to really think about that and how huge that is, like, why do I ever worry about anything? When I have the Spirit of the one true living God living in me, what do I have to be worried about? I mean, it doesn't mean that life is easy and everything always goes the way we want it to go or anything, but I'm okay. He's got me. And, and there's some things, I'm in a situation right now, Marvin and I, where we need some things to pan out. But one thing is dependent on another thing is dependent on another thing. And it requires perfect timing. And, and it's like very overwhelming. Is this going to work out? Or, what are we going to do? And yet I'm like, but why do I worry about it? Because this is God's plan, not my plan. And so if it is his plan, then it will all work out and everything will fall into place no matter what. If it's my plan and it crumbles, well, good, because my plans are usually very good. I mean, they seem good to me, but I don't always make the best choices. I think I try to, but still. So I want what he wants for me, and I want what he has for me. So as I began to think on this more and more and what this really means, and I'm like thinking of in my life over the years, the times that I have been foolish and I have been careless and forgetful and sinful, not realizing the full value. I don't know if I'll ever realize the full value, but not realizing the value that I should realize of the God who indwells me, who spoke everything around me into existence. That we have, our woods, and, this time of year, the leaves have set on the hardwoods, and there's some evergreens back there and all, but it gets this cool look and feel to it when the woods just thicken up. And I look back in there and, and it's just, I love to look back in the woods and, and all the wildlife that's coming out. I got to roll this window down some because it's getting warm in here. But I can look at those trees and stuff right in front of me. You can't see it, but there's a little bird with some grass and stuff that obviously is building a nest. All of these things God spoke into existence, except man. No, with man, we mattered so much to him that he used his hands and formed us and then breathed the breath of life into us. The yelling you're hearing is, we've got road construction going on, and I think they're done for the day, so everybody's hollering and happy, and all the traffic noises died down. Interesting. So anyway, you'll hear some yelling in the background, hopefully nothing not good, but it's just the workmen getting ready to go home for the day. But as I, began to really think about who God is and that he indwells me, and I don't want to be careless with him, that's more valuable than any diamond ring. He is way beyond that. His value is greater than all of everything put together. Nothing, you could never come up with anything that would even come close to the value of the one true living God. And His Spirit indwells me. Makes me want to do a better job with my life because I'm living it right in front of Him. There's nothing I do that's not right in front of God, or there's no place I go that I'm not taking Him with me. And there's no word. I'll tell you today. One of the dogs I have a bad knee, and it ran into my knee and bent it backwards, and sent pain shooting through that knee like you would not believe. And a very bad word came out of my mouth, and my grandson was like, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't believe I said it either, but that hurt so bad. And then I thought, I don't want those words coming out of my mouth when God dwells in me. It's just had me thinking a lot the last few days. Maybe something for you to think about too. Are you a follower of Jesus Christ? Are you a child of God? Because if you are, then His Spirit indwells you. And you hold in your vessel, in your body, the greatest treasure that anyone could ever have. Think about that. All right. They're going home. I'm going to go in the house. We're done. We're going to call it a day until we have to go pick our grandson up. All right. You guys have an awesome day today. I love you. I'll talk to you again soon.